Well, part two, I mean, it worked great where you're trying to set up Vinayak's world, like how it's changed and how it's getting greed. And then I like the montages they did where, he's in the kota, he's enjoyed, and you see how he's changing. This is where, I reference like the King Midas thing where he's going crazy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you see it and you can do it. And I'm like, that's nice and all that. But all the other bit just made it bloated. But that was crucial because we needed to see his character,
exactly,
the development and the transformation, the evolution where it goes.
Exactly,
we needed that.
Yeah, I didn't I didn't have the same issue with scene 2 that you did. I mean, I can definitely see how changing a couple of the through line and storyline would have made this a bit more tighter. But the movie itself had a very nice pace to it. I did not feel any kind of lag in the movie. I was always with the movie, even though this is the second time I watched it and I knew what was going to happen. I was still looking for things to criticize, or maybe, they could have done this better, they could have done that better. But I think the through line of the movie was very tight. They're trying to tell the story as quickly as you could. And I think introducing the moneylender character was just a way of adding a bit more flavor to the movie. And then showing the transition from the bus to the bike to the fancy car at the end was, again, the evolution of the character. So in the first part, he is on the bus, and then the bike, and then in the end, he has a fancy car.
Well, I guess the other thing that we should bring up is Chapter 2 also showed Vinayak will throw anyone who gets in his way under the bus, which is what he did with the lender.
But I think that's the only person he throws under the bus.
Yeah, but that's the only people that had any closeness to the cult.
But he only did that because he was trying to screw with Vinayak.
No, I get that. But I'm saying, even at that point, you could have just handled it another way. But he's like, no. You fed him. Come on, bro. You fed him.
But like the grandmother said, man, it's your choice. Once you make the choice... No, I'm talking about the moneylender right now, not Vinayak's character. I'm saying the moneylender made the choice to follow him on there. Once you enter the mansion, you have no more choice. So I think that was, again, he knew that was going to happen. He didn't have to, I mean, it was hilarious when he went into the womb. He saw that little box, that little metal case, and he starts rubbing it like a freaking genie lamp, expecting a genie to come out. Like, he has no idea what's happening.
Aladdin.
Yeah, he's like a complete clueless person. As he doesn't know what he's getting himself into. And that's what happens if you just let greed guide you.
But I guess this is where it comes back to what I was telling you about at the beginning, where, it's all about the character development and how you create an atmosphere and scene using the character, so you're not telling us and you're not spoon feeding us. But I just loved, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was creepy and it was so chilling to watch. But you brought up Predator earlier. Bro, Vinayak was eyeing him up. And the beautiful shots. See when there was a hole through the wall? And Vinayak was just standing there looking through, and you can see through there's I think a few layers of wall, and through there's like a hole through a hole through a hole, and then you see the moneylender, and then he just stands there, and then the moneylender's from peripheral vision thinks he saw something, and he looks more directly at the hole, but Vinayak moves away. And I thought Vinayak was then going to grab something and do the typical thing where you're like, what? And no, he was cold.
No, but that's what I mean. He gave him the choice. That's what I liked about that scene. He baited him. No. He didn't have to follow Vinayak.
But I'm saying, from Vinayak's point of view, the character, like I said, throughout all this, I'm not taking other people's characters. Like, even the moneylender, I don't really care about his character because it wasn't that. Everything was there just to build up and show us Vinayak's character. It was purely about this family and their curse and how they, destroys them. It pretty much dismantles your family, mate. That's what the curse is there for. And the way his character just goes out, because remember, this is me bringing back to the point that, when his brother had an accident, he went crying to his mum, like, mom, something happened to her. Yeah. And then they rushed to take her to the, the cart, and then they was leaving to try. So you see that, and then here it's like, nah, I'm just coming at you, and he's going, and there was no thing. The only thing was I did see is seeing the suffering. Now, I don't know if it's just a bit of compassion in him, or is it just seeing what his grandma went through that he then decided to put the guy out of his misery? Otherwise, he would have been ravaged by a Hastar.
Yeah. We're going to get to that scene in a bit once we go into Hastar and all that stuff. But I did appreciate that. Again, like I said, this part 2 for me was all about understanding who Vinayak is as a grown-up. So I think not only did he give the moneylender an opportunity to not follow him, that kind of showed that, he could have just knocked him over the head, killed him, and buried his body in that mansion. No one would have known any better, but he didn't do that. He made a choice. That told us a lot about the character. But also, not letting him suffer was also a choice that he made that made us realize what he's capable of inside. Like, he's not really, like, no one, and forget about this character we're talking about, human beings in general, by default, I think are nice people. We just need permission to be nice. It's just, if you see a animal with a broken leg, and if you're capable of helping him, there's a human need to help them. If you've been brought up in an environment where violence is the answer, then you get taught hatred. No one is born full of hatred. I mean, environment, your situation kind of makes you a certain way. And for Vinayak's instance, it was the greed that made him do certain things that he might not have done. But going back to the mother scene, which you said when the brother died, I just realized this. You know how you're saying that Vinayak didn't care and he went straight for the goal? The mother did the exact same thing, by the way. Because when she was taking the kid to the hospital, and the kid dies along the way, the driver asks, should I still take you to the hospital? Or do you want me to take you to the graveyard? She coldly says, take me to the mansion. That basically means she took the gold, and the only way she could have taken the gold, I imagine, is to break in and, just steal, I guess. And then later on, when Vinayak shows his son his safe full of gold coins, the son says, oh my God, there's enough gold here to last a lifetime. And he says, oh, you sound just like my mother. She thought one coin would last us a lifetime. So the greed again just was there in the family, but with each generation it got bigger and bigger. So it amplifies. But again, the way Vinayak was because it was taught to him by his mother. Not in a sense like taught in like this is how you must be, but through the actions of the mother, he learned that it's all about the gold. I must get the gold coin because the mother was obsessed with that. That obsession went to the son, and then that obsession continued through the generation. So again, that was a good way of seeding that seed. So that was quite good. Okay, in that case, let us go into the actual main thing that we haven't even talked about. Hastar. Let's talk about Hastar. I love the way Hastar was introduced. Okay, we didn't actually see him for the longest amount of time in the movie. Freaking loved it. That's exactly how I want my monsters to be introduced. Love the set design. It has such beautiful set design, dude. I mean, I felt those places viscerally. Like, these were real places to me.
Now, see, production design and cinematography in this movie.
Amazing. Yes. Like, it's so good. I don't have the words to describe it. Like, what they achieved was so good. Like, lighting a scene with a lantern is ridiculously courageous. Because you're always worried about details are going to get lost, etc. But it pulled focus in the right way and told the story in such a organized and almost like a painting. Like, you don't need to look anywhere else. You need to just look here. I know the set design is quite distracting, but look here. It took lots of courage.
Just to point that out, where you said the lantern. Here's the other thing. You're shooting a dark scene. And you know how much hard work... I mean, anyone who's got a mobile phone, try and take a picture at night. Your picture is going to be terrible. Yeah? So, in order to use that one source of light, but at the same time making sure it's not grainy and it's not ruined...
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, they did use a red digital camera here, so those lenses are fucking badass.
But that's what I'm saying, though. It's the technique that goes into it. It's the understanding and the preparation that comes into it.
Yeah.
So it's not just a case of we're just going to use this and film it and that's cool. A lot of hard work's gone into that. That was outstanding.
So the Hastar conversation is going to be a bit weird because usually me and Zan don't really talk about our full review of the movie until we do this podcast, because then there'll be more, natural conversation. But I've got a bit of a hint that one of us is not a big fan of Hastar as much as the other one. So I'm going to start. So I love Hastar. What? So the design of Hastar was great. I loved it. So it was unlike anything I've seen before. I loved the design of the womb. The womb was, again, the idea of going into a god's womb. I literally had never even conceived that idea, and being able to visualize that in such a grotesque way was beautiful. I love the visceral nature of everything. Was kind of pulsating, like you could feel like it was an organic, alive thing. Mm-hmm. And we don't see Hastar for the longest amount of time. When we finally do see Hastar, it was not what I was expecting. I got to be honest with you. The creature itself was okay, because it kind of looked like its environment. I expected that. But the gold crown was such a good touch for me. It really shows that he could have been the king. He could have been like the great king of gods or whatever. But he has fallen down so much, he's become a demon. Like he had the potential, like everyone, everything, every man, every woman, every person could be the best version of themselves or the worst version of themselves. So seeing a demon with the ornate gold crown was a very good imagery that really worked for me. And the CGI I really liked, because this is an old trick that, keeping everything in the dark just so you don't see all the flaws of it. I'm glad that, the lighting and the cinematography in the movie kind of worked in the favor of not seeing Hastar in too much detail, because that would have kind of ruined it. And the creature being red against a red background is also usually a bad idea. But in this instance, it worked because it looked like part of the environment. And you could never really see Hastar. It was almost like camouflage. So you really had to kind of keep your eyes out for where he's coming from. And the gold crown helped with kind of getting the audience's attention to where we need to look. So how did you feel about Hastar, dude?
See, now, everyone, I apologize. But he started this.
Yes.
So when he introduced it, automatically I became the bad guy. It made it clear I am not the bad guy. So here's my rant and my justification. And this is not right. Yeah, you can't make me out to be the bad guy.
It's not a bad guy. You just didn't like it. I was a bad guy in RRR. I hated the tiger. I got so much.
You didn't give the context.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, of course.
I did not hate the CGI. Okay, I didn't appreciate them going down that route with the CGI. But ultimately, I didn't appreciate the creature design. Okay? Not the CGI, the creature design.
Yeah, I love the creature design. So tell me why you don't like it. Because I was saying, the crown, the red on red, the way it looked, I loved all of that. The
crown fits. It comes back to my whole thing of relating him to King Midas. Also, at the beginning, they say Hastar became the person who took all the gold under his control, which the rest of the gods stood by. Yeah. So he took under his control. So someone who's so obsessed with gold would do that. Yeah. So I can see him making everything gold and wearing a crown and everything, because he loved that. He was so obsessed with gold. So I get that. And that was a beautiful, symbolism on how he is. I just was like, it's a guy in red.
I honestly thought you were going to say more. But you were like, it's a guy in red.
Yeah. So the thing is I was thinking, because here's the thing. Now, this could be my own fault. Ultimately, I blame the filmmakers. Okay, because you did the story. It was your dialogues. It was your writing that set up. And you decided to make... Okay, I'm going to blame the filmmakers. You decided to make a film where you would basically give bits and pieces here and there and let the person's imagination do the rest, which I like. That's how a nice horror movie should be done. But you played with my emotions. You played with my imagination. You said, Soja varna hastara jayega. Soja varna hastara jayega. Go to sleep, otherwise Hastar will come. Okay? So if someone tells you that, and this is a person possessed, yeah? If a person possessed, cursed, and is put to sleep just by those words, that's someone terrifying. Yeah? So I'm taking from that. So I'm hearing this all the way throughout the movie, and I'm seeing it worked on the old woman. Yeah? So I'm seeing this, and then I'm even seeing the whole story, that the monologue they gave at the beginning. And then the reveal is some guy in red.
Yeah, but the imagery was the goddess took her into the womb in order to protect him, right? So he became part of the womb. Because he was being destroyed by the gods. So it's not like guy in red. It's the environment of the womb that creates Hastar. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I'm guessing the best way to say this is when I'm talking about the creature design, I was expecting something more to be scary. To me, the scary thing here out of this entire movie is still the granny.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Granny is more gross than scary to me. But you're telling me if Hastar were to show up in your room right now, you'd be like, whatever. I've seen scarier stuff. Dude, come on.
If Hassan showed up in my room right now, bro, I'd be like,
Why you
stay
red?
away. I would tell your mum.
Go to sleep, bro. And don't make me call your mom. But no, again, it wasn't. Look, in your head, what did you imagine Hastar to be before you saw it?
I guess I was thinking the fact that this person was cursed with not having food. So he would be almost disfigured, part of him, missing, and just a person, when you're so deprived of food,
Like a golem kind of a look.
yeah, but at the same time, be so, when someone says, my hunger is in rage because I'm in so much hunger. Yeah. So I would have thought something like that, where someone would just attack because they're hungry all the time. Because basically, to Hastar, anyone who comes in front of him, human beings wise, are food.
Ah, interesting. Okay, so I didn't see it that way. So I thought the hunger was more of a metaphor. Same way as the gold was the metaphor, right?
Nah, because he actually eats them, remember? Because you see the moneylender.
Yeah, sure. He eats them, but he wants the grain. He wants the wheat.
Yeah, but at the same time, human beings are food to him.
Of course, yeah.
He's been deprived of food for so many years. And that's what he sees to them, and that's why the whole saying comes in, like "Soja varna hastarajaya." So you put them to sleep, so they're not suffering and all that stuff, because otherwise he's going to eat. So that's the only reason. And then it's a bit too early to talk about our scene behind the scenes.
No, go for it.
Okay. They actually did prosthetics. They did practical.
Yeah.
They had a practical Hastar.
Yeah. I mean,
and
look.
even to the point where it was still the same in terms of the CGI version that we saw. The prosthetics changed a bit and looked like that, but it was more smooth. Especially the wall crawling part, because it was practical. It was more smooth
But I like that it was CGI, because the CGI kind of gave it an unworldly feeling. Is that what I'm looking for? It wasn't like off this world. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I like that it was CGI. If it was a man in prosthetic, I don't think I would have gotten this. So if it was a similar kind of technique used for the grandmother on Hastar, I don't think it would have worked as much, because it's almost like a demigod. Like Hastar is a god, but to me it's like a fallen god. So it's almost like lesser version of it. So what you're talking about being deprived of food, I thought they did that very well, because it was almost skin and bones. He was a very scrawny little thing.
Not enough though.
Yeah, I mean, this is all degrees of what you like and what you don't like.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's more about they had the metaphor that you wanted. It was mostly skin and bones. Mm-hmm. He's starving for food, but at the same time, the only thing he has for himself would be the gold crown and the gold in his loincloth and all that stuff. That's the only thing he has been holding on to all his existence. But what he's really craving is the food. I thought the design was good enough to convey all of that. I didn't need anything more. So what I'm saying is, from what I imagined, like I don't know what I imagined. I got to be honest with you. When I first saw it, I wasn't imagining anything, because I literally had no concept of what the visuals of it would be. And when I eventually saw it, it was unlike anything else I had seen in the movie. And that's why I appreciated it.
I guess my problem is like I said, it took me 3 tries to watch this movie, purely because of being scared. man enough to admit that.
Yeah.
But because I was scared to do that, and that was all because of the old woman, I wasn't scared when Hastar was revealed to me.
You made it really worse in your head, man. Like, I watched it in one sitting. So if you're just, imagining the worst kind of demon in your mind, by the time it comes to you, it'll be kind of a disappointment, I imagine. But yeah, I think, I would love to take the credit away from the filmmaker, but I think it could have been way worse. They could have really messed up if they had done anything lesser than. And I thought it was a decent enough job for them to do. Okay, I want to talk about one more thing about the Hastar and the moneylender thing, which I quite liked. So clearly, Hastar can be seen as a metaphor for corporate greed. Okay, so you have to go to a job, you put yourself at risk in order to get scraps. Yeah?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when the moneylender is caught in that same cycle, Hastar, that's the first time we see Hastar properly, by the way, when he goes down for the second time. And we see Hastar as this demonic figure. We don't really understand the logic of what the white stuff is. Later on, we find out it's the flower. So he's afraid to touch the flower, etc., etc. In the beginning, we don't know what that is, and the movie tells you the logic of the world through that scene. So we see Vinayak trying to give him the sacrificial doll, shaped like a man. So sacrifice. That metaphor was obvious. So I'm not going to get into that. And then he drops it. But Hastar can't reach for it, so we understand. Oh, he can't reach past that circle, and then Hastar becomes he becomes almost submissive. He starts begging. He kind of goes, "Come on, please feed me." Like his body language changes. So we see this demonic creature become small, and he's begging this person to give him what he needs. When he doesn't give it to him, he goes and hurts that moneylender. He doesn't eat him, by the way. He goes to that moneylender, rips his arm off, swings it around, just to show that I'm going to hurt the people that you love if you don't give me what I need. Kind of in a similar way, when we do a job, when we go to work, when we try to be greedy and get money from sources that we think aren't really right for us. The reason we do that, and we continue to do that, is because if we don't, people we love would be hurt. So Hastar goes straight to that and hurts someone that he knows that he's going to care about. And then Vinayak throws that doll and feeds him.
That, again, this is where, even we talked about in the RRIs, it's making sure you're keeping an eye on the story and seeing how it comes together. So they're keeping an eye on that and they're remembering what they're doing. So it's consistent. So that was really well executed and keeps with the story. So I thought that was brilliant. We'll come back to Hastar, yeah. But just before we get to the Hastar part, in between when chapter 3 starts, we're shown the son, Vinayak's son, yeah, and how we introduced the son. Straight away, he's doing some game obstacle.
He's training.
And the obstacle is him training. Not that he knows what he's training for, but he's training ultimately to get the gold in the womb. And I'm just like, who does that?
Everyone, dude. That's the funny thing about it. Like, you're looking at it in a very... Because we know what he's training for, it looks like a very evil thing to do. But imagine this in a way like a blacksmith is teaching his son how to be a blacksmith. That's all that the father thinks he's doing. But this is the trade of this family. So the generational knowledge is going to get passed on through generations. So the father is teaching.
And he says that.
Yeah, exactly.
He says that. When he's taking him and he's like, the curse is our boon.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's our blessing. And he goes, how's that? You'll understand when you go into the womb.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I get that, but I'm just like saying, this just shows his character. Like, their family's so engulfed with this greed.
Yeah.
And they are truly cursed.
Yeah.
It's like, that's all they see. It's to the point where you're just taking away a kid's childhood. And not only that, his kid's got an issue with his foot.
I didn't know that.
That doesn't make...
No, I did.
Yeah, did you see? The way he was walking.
No, I didn't notice. Did he have a limp?
Yeah, his foot is always his left foot he can't really put it down, so he's never flat.
Interesting. I don't know.
He's always on the ball of his foot.
Okay.
So he's always walking like that, and he's always moving like that. So I'm like, wow, the fact, and even the mum doesn't know, but the mum has no say in it.
Yeah, I don't even want to unpack that side of things. Like that, I need to watch the movie again to even understand that. But the women in the story are basically told not to worry about what the men have to do to earn a living, how they bring bread to the table. Don't worry about it, because before the kid goes to Tumbbad to actually help his father, the mother sweetly says, I still don't know. But I think she knows in her heart it's something dangerous because she looks afraid to send her son into Tumbbad with the father. But it's almost like she doesn't want to know. It's almost like a gangster movie. You know how in Goodfellas and Godfather, the wives actually stay away from the husband business. It's almost like that. But as soon as the son gets back and the mother asks, the son just repeats the same thing that was taught to him, and he says, "It's between me and my father." So yeah, that's a very I don't want to say. Yeah, I honestly don't know. I need someone else to kind of shine some light on it. But it is almost like the women of that world did not want to know what needs to get done, and the men almost didn't want to share. And I don't know if it was to protect the women in their life because they would worry more, or they just didn't trust the women in their life. So I don't know.
I think it comes down to the trust thing. They didn't trust anyone, and the less people that knew about it, the better it was.
Yeah,
and
agreed.
Also they didn't respect women in that time. Let's just face it. That's the way they saw them.
Okay, what else do you have to say about the son character? Because there's a lot to unpack with the son character.
Oh, the son character. The son character was like the apple from the tree, but much more. He really showed that the curse of the family does go there with greed, and he went one step further. The sheer audacity of him, like, not only to think, okay, I'm gonna be like my father and his family and all that stuff. I'm gonna hit on the mistress. Yeah, I've got the coin. I want more of the coin. And even the first time he goes, the trial run, it's supposed to be a trial run. He still takes what's that called?
The wheat doll.
Sacrifice.
Yeah. But again, like his father, he thinks he can outsmart the system.
Yeah. And it was his idea about let's take more than one doll. Yeah. It's like, wow. And the thing is, this is a child, okay? A child who doesn't know any better because he's just introduced to this world. Yeah. He comes up with an idea, and you're the adult, but your greed just overcomes your sense of logic and sensibilities that you're just like, who cares if a child's like, okay, it's an idea of a child, but let me take the idea and look at it and analyze it and try and make it more structured. No. It's just, oh, okay. You came up with the idea. Okay, let's go. I'm just like, wow. And I guess we'll come back to it, but we didn't touch on one of the main things I liked about, I guess, symbolism in this movie. But we can come back to that. So now that we've talked about this, chapter 3 and the kid and everything else, obviously then they actually get ready to go the last score, the final score of their life.
Yeah.
And then they go back into the womb.
Yeah.
And boy, even I wasn't expecting that. That was a twist.
Yeah, but I mean, there were so many twists in the last bit. So from what I understand, the original ending, before the second director came in, was that we see the Hastars multiplying. From 1, it becomes 2, and we get to a wide shot, and all the Hastars are coming down the wall, and the movie just ends. And that would have been a terrible ending. That would have been the worst ending ever, and I would have hated this movie. But what really redeemed the ending for me was the redemption of the father character, Vinayak. I did not see that coming, that he was going to sacrifice himself for the son. Did you expect that?
I didn't think he did that. I thought, again, like I was shouting in Triple R, when I hated Ramcharan.
Yeah.
In this one, I was thinking, I know you're greedy, but you're that heartless? Because at one point, when he was getting up and I thought he was leaving the son, because even the son thought that he was leaving him. He's like, don't do this, daddy. And the son's crying.
No. Son got it straight away. As soon as the son saw that the doll's being wrapped around him, he knew exactly what was happening and said there has to be another way. That's why the son was crying and like holding on to the father not to go.
I just thought the father was being a selfish prick.
I mean, what? No, I mean, come on. What do you think he was going to do with like wrapping the dolls around him by being selfish?
I thought it was leaving the son behind and just saving himself. That's what I was thinking.
But what's with the doll then?
No, that's what I'm saying. At first, that's what I was thinking.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I was thinking, oh my God.
Right.
And I'm like,
no.
dude, these people are playing with my emotions.
No, because
again.
the way they did that shot was what gave me the information, because the shot started from his feet and we saw the doll being attached to his feet. And then from in between his legs, we see the son waking up. And then I put two and two together, but I didn't see that character change coming, because let's kind of talk a little bit briefly about the relationship between the son and the father, right? So we spoke about the son and how the father was treating him to kind of take over the business, the family business, which is to be a treasure hunter from a freaking demon, whatever, you got to make a living. But what I liked about the relationship between the father and the son, like is a strong word, but what I understood from it is because that line I mentioned earlier, which was that I'm not trying to scare you, I'm trying to prepare you. So the reason he was as harsh on the son was in order to prepare him to face the harsh world the way he has experienced it himself, the way Vinayak has experienced the harsh world himself. So even when the son is being so happy and proud that whatever my father is teaching me, I'm learning it very quickly and I'm being good at what I'm doing, my father must be proud, he shows no sign of pride. His son's success reminds him of what he himself is incapable of doing. So he no longer has the strength to do it. So now he has to give up control. And we know he doesn't like giving up control. He likes to be in control of the things around him. He thinks he can make the rules, etc. He is no longer the alpha. He now has to give up to the next generation. But at the same time, there is love for the son that I understood from the final scene. The final scene of him sacrificing himself. He does love him. And everything he had done up until now was in order to protect him and prepare him for the world that he was about to face. And in the end, he realized that he's the only one, in fact, that can save him. And that was the final choice. The grandmother saying that you always have a choice. That was the final choice he was able to make. And that choice was to sacrifice himself.
Yeah. Good prevailed, which is a nice way of ending it. But then I just wanted to point out that, as you said, there was another ending which you didn't like. There was also another alternative ending where the son actually drags the father home. Well, you don't see him reach home, but you see him dragging him. I'm like, oh no. This is not happening. No. I'm like, oh, good, you didn't do that, because to me, the way this works out is it's actually nice to say, the curse is ended, because the son realizes the huge sacrifice and the consequences, that how much toll it takes on a family and a generation that this curse has, and what you have to give up to get it. So therefore, he decides not to accept what his father's offering him, the coins. Yeah. And also when his father...
Not just the coins, though. It's important to remember, the father was offering the loincloth, so unlimited wealth.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That was a bigger choice, I thought. So he knew what was at risk if he didn't take that thing, but he wanted to break the curse. So I completely love that choice.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That works beautifully, because it just shows you that, look, you don't need to go through that. And he puts the end to the curse, which is great. And then not only that, he also remembers the saying, and then he doesn't want to put his father through any more suffering. In two ways, he's putting the demon to sleep, but he's putting his father to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it works on two folds. So you're putting your father to sleep, so he doesn't suffer, but you're putting the demon to sleep, and then he sets him on fire. And you're saying no, you're rejecting the gold and everything else, and the demon and all that stuff. So you're the first one in a long line of this family blood that is putting an end to this. And this is, I guess, where, if you allow me to move on, is
wait, hold up. Before we move on, I have this final thing to say about this.
Go ahead.
Exactly what you were saying. And now, just to put an end and full stop to that symbolism, is that the final shot of Tumbbad is to shut the door. You know what I mean? That's the last shot that you see. Like he was just about to leave. He left, turned his back on that whole curse, and he took a breath. And then the final shot is him shutting the door and finally ending the curse. And that was a very finalistic way of making sure the audience gets that this kid ends the curse. However, I do have a nitpick about this. The same way I didn't see the father's self-sacrifice coming, we had no inclination that the kid would be able to break the curse. So it wasn't seeded in any way. So the kid making that choice at the end wasn't in line with the character of the kid that we know so far. So all the stuff we've been saying so far, he was more greedy than his previous generation. He was more greedy than his father. He was, he wanted to marry that mistress. He didn't want to tell the secret to the mother. All of these things tells you about the character. So we were being prepared for a particular characterization of the son, but nothing was seeded earlier in the movie that kind of gave us a hint that the child would make that choice. So it came out of nowhere for me. So that was a bit of a clunky storytelling in my view. But in the end, I think they made the right choice in ending the curse with the father.
Picture bhi baki hai bhai.